a magazine, and the growth that has occurred there is amazing.
Oh yeah.
They even allow men to go there now.
My freshman year was the first year, so 1967 was the first year they admitted men, and they were all commuters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the year I graduated.
Uh-huh.
And then I got 30 days after I graduated
A
from
few
college.
years
I got my
ago,
first
they
graduate.
had like 5
30
days.
days.
I went up to Fort Gordon on business
Yeah.
with somebody years ago, and I couldn't believe it. I had changed. I mean, it's like, geez.
Yeah, just give me a glass.
I mean, when we were at Benton, you know, I mean, the heat didn't even work in the barracks.
Somebody else?
And you had to leave the windows open.
That was the S1 was the personnel, you know, and
They rotate off.
So when you moved up, when John came in, you just stayed there as the S1?
Thank you.
yeah, I moved from a lieutenant leader to the S1 because I was the first lieutenant at that time, but they didn't have any captains at the time.
Oh.
You know, it's either lieutenants, no captains, or captains
And
no
no
lieutenants.
lieutenants, sure.
And that's just the way it was. And so I got the captain's job, and then when we filled up with captains and another captain came in, the colonel looked at me and said, "Which company do you want to go back in? I'd like you to go to," like he came from Delta. He said, "I want you to go to Delta." I said, "I know that we need an XO in Alpha, and that's my old company. I'd like to go back to it." And so I became the XO for the last 3 months or so of my
So was
tour.
Top Tamarez was there.
Yes. I got pictures of him.
Oh, some mutual friend. I wrote
I
something
think
on the
one of
virtual
us
wall.
saw something on the virtual wall.
Right, yes.
And I think at one time you probably got contacted by all 3 of us.
Well,
Our
okay.
younger
She
sister lives in
Me about the
Virginia.
hat.
She's
Yeah.
in Jersey. I'm in Kansas.
Well, so I told them kind of at least my percent what happened at the time, and just
Right outside
we chatted. We having a reunion, and
Which is
Jan and Gid and I said, "Look, here's an issue. I think it might be nice to have families of people that didn't make it back if they want to attend." And it was unanimous. They all thought that's a good idea. My only concern was some of the coarseness of the language.
Very upfront.
Believe me, I mean,
very upfront with it.
it makes me cringe sometimes, especially the word "goop" being bandied about. It's one of those that I go, but it's common.
Yeah.
That's why I sent out that thing about Tim O'Brien.
Well, can you tell us again about their brother? What were you saying about their brother?
Well, the thing that I told him, I was there when he died, and I guess we can talk during the course of how a box of grenades were tossed out of a helicopter, and they couldn't find them all. And to this day, Ridley Mormon, who was in charge of he said he would love to chat with you if you wanted. He couldn't make it here. He still.
There's the sun went down, and we found the 29th one killed John. We still don't know what the 30th.
And Ridley still today, he just felt like he failed. But the thing that I've learned in Vietnam, that there's just there's nothing explicable about how things happen. They're just sequences of stuff. And I'm standing beside John, and I mean, for years I used to remember that there was a guy in a helicopter that was a friend of mine, and your brother was ground guiding him in. Jan had asked him to because this was a really tight landing zone. Helicopters, in spite of the movies, don't come in and land like that. Well, they were doing that. They had to blow trees just to get a copter in, and we'd been in heavy combat, needed resupply, had wounded.
The guy had shot himself on the 16th. We'll tell the story, but if you won this in reverse, any of 17 things could have changed for a 3-day course, and John wouldn't have been standing there, and there wouldn't have been a fire. And you can just, I have not had much difficulty, but I would critique myself brutally and then try to flush it, because you just would go crazy. You just had to do the best you could all the time, and
It was his time. Adherents were.
No, he
told
was.
us.
Yeah, he was immediate.
So he didn't suffer.
And the only other thing that I
I'm
want
not
to
sure
know,
John even knew whatever
He
hit
knew
him.
it.
No.
I don't know why, but I keep thinking all the time, was he wounded before that? Did he
There
have
was some shrapnel
in
in
him?
his body, but
I don't know why I keep thinking that.
he was. But
That was in his first 6 months when he was a pathfinder. See, he was a Pathfinder, and he came to us.
But see, I believe what I was told was he had, whatever paperwork you sign when you arrive in country, he had said, if I'm wounded, don't. Because Mom and Dad didn't know that. I think that came out afterwards.
Yeah, I didn't sign that paper, and I got hit the first time about 19 days after I was there. And of course, my wife just had Todd, my son, and they got this thing that I had been hit, and then all of a sudden I get all these letters and everything, and then I said, we ain't doing this anymore, and I said,
and you signed the paper?
And I signed the paper saying, because I didn't think I was going to get hit in the first place, like every other guy over there.
Well, being a smart ass, you know what my paper said?
What's that?
He said, who do you want to contact? I said, the Pope. I wrote it down. In fact, it's in my, to this day, in my little book with Pope John.
Whoever it is now. Yeah.
I mean, I want that guy to know. But it's just when that happened, and believe me, David, the people on the first helicopter everybody made it safe. John was the one hit. The randomness of everything. How I wasn't hit still amazed me to this day.
How close were you standing to John?
I mean, we were shoulder to shoulder. I mean, he was facing this way, and I'm right to his left, facing this way. But I saw the ball. I mean, I saw the fire. I mean, just growing.
I remember Mother and Daddy told us that, John was hit, but there was a person feet away, and they weren't.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
No.
It was random. It was pure random.
Yeah, I mean, see, if a grenade goes off, it just goes off, and it just happens to be he was in the wrong place.
To me,
it cooked off.
If it cooks off, then you get a totally different
blast. You don't get the.
What does that mean? What's called?
It didn't ignite from the igniter.
It doesn't fire from the blast.
It's trued out, so you get a very concentrated, a very distorted. In other words, it's designed to be fairly. The requirements for those things is it's supposed to be certain universal coverage. In other words, that's the whole issue of why they're made. And now the baseball grenades are different because they weren't perpetrated. I don't want to go into all that, but when you get cook off, it usually goes some hole will cook off, and so then everything goes out that.
It must have been fairly, because generally on a hand grenade, if you're at about 25 to 30 meters of it, you're in the kill zone of an explosion of a grenade. And I'm standing right beside, and that's why my own mind. I've been in the field for a long time, and rockets, at least what we thought when the B-40 rocket hit it, tend to blow directionally. At least that was general belief. And that was the only thing I could think of when I'm sitting there going. I mean, I'm sitting there pulling my shirt and I'm going.
Still here?
I'm all right before this. They took us to Benoit, where we were going to have 3 days where we didn't have to pull guard. We were in a safe area, and they had movie theaters.
All the comforts of home.
Yeah, pretty much. And Jan and them, of course, warned us that first Cav guys weren't allowed to go to Saigon. It was illegal. And don't be going. So the first thing 4 or 5 of us did was Saigon. And
was my brother with you?
No.
Oh, I would have
what made me? Let me tell you, L.T. Bradman didn't. He kept that distance between him and officers. He really, a lot of officers didn't. He did. I mean, I remember one personal conversation with him. We were sitting there one time in the jungle, and I'm looking, and I saw he had a first lieutenant's bar, which is really unusual in the field. I said, "What the hell are you doing here?" And he said, well, he told me about he was a Pathfinder, and he'd spent some time, and this was field time that was important to his career. That was about the only kind of personal conversation, because I went, what the hell are you doing here?